Your mind carries an internal profile of who you are. It influences how you speak, what you attempt, what you avoid, and what you expect from others. This episode explains how that identity forms and how to update it using language. The brain uses identity as a reference point for decision making. The prefrontal cortex relies on self-concept to predict effort, risk, and payoff. So if an action doesn't align with how you see yourself, it feels heavier or even unsafe. The basal ganglia stores habitual patterns tied to identity, and repeated behaviors reinforce "this is who I am," even when the behavior is outdated. Language strengthens these loops, so statements you repeat about yourself become mental shortcuts that the brain follows automatically. Overall, this means that your brain protects consistency, not growth, and identity tells it what feels allowed. Here's a tool that can help you break imposter syndrome by reassigning what your identity actually is. Simply enough, it's called identity reassignment through language. This tool works by moving identity from fixed labels to functional roles that your brain can act on. Step 1. Catch the identity claim. Listen for phrases that define who you are, not what you're experiencing. These usually sound absolute or just permanent. For example, I'm bad at confrontation. I'm not a disciplined person. I'm socially awkward. I always mess things up. The reason this matters is because identity claims tell your brain what outcome to protect and repeat. Think about that. Step 2. Translate identity into a current role. Instead of correcting the sentence, just reassign it. For example, instead of saying "I'm bad at communication," replace it with "I'm someone who hasn't practiced direct communication." Instead of "I'm not disciplined," replace it with "I'm someone who hasn't built repeatable systems." Instead of "I'm socially awkward," replace it with "I'm someone who's learning social timing and pacing." This works because roles imply development, which is something your brain's willing to update more easily than an entire identity all at once. And lastly, step 3. Give the brain a functional identity that it can act from. Something operational and clear that uses action statements. For example, I'm someone who improves through exposure. I'm someone who builds through repetition. I'm someone who responds better with structure. Or I'm someone who adjusts after feedback. This works because the brain uses identity as a filter for making decisions. When that filter changes, the behavior follows naturally. You can change that filter to anything that you want. When this is put into practice, effort stops feeling like self-conflict, like you're battling your old self to be somebody that you want to be. Acting differently, making different decisions feels less like imposter syndrome, and your actions start feeling like something that you're permitted to do instead of something that you're forcing. And through that repetition, you're giving your brain a version of you that it can actually support, which ultimately stops you from arguing with who you are and accepting who you're becoming. Drink water.